All right, today's objective, linear applications. Let's talk about some words that you should already know, but now we're going to start applying some meaning behind them, okay? So for instance, y-intercept, slope, and slope-intercept form, okay? So for y-intercept, when we're talking about applications of what a y-intercept is going to mean, we're looking at, in word problems, a starting place. That could be, what are we being charged, or what fee is there before you do anything else, like a flat rate type of a thing. So some kind of starting place is what a y-intercept is going to be, the beginning of something, okay? Slope. We already know that it's a rate of change. We also know that is also how we go from one point to another point on a line. But now talking about with word problems, we know too that it is how much or the cost of something. It could be, per is a really key word when we get into the word problems. Okay. Slope-intercept form. We know that it's in y equals mx plus b. So now we're going to learn how to take these particular pieces and apply them into word problems. It might not look like y equals mx plus b, but it's going to have that same linear relationship. So for example here, I have a rental car company that charges $75 and an additional 25 cents per mile the car is driven. All right, so let's pick out the pieces that we need. We know that I see $75 here, and that tells me that that is what the rental car company is going to charge before I do anything, okay? So we know that that is definitely my y-intercept. That is my b. That is something that is the cost at the very beginning before I even drive off the lot. Then it says it has an additional 25 cents. There's that word per. So for every mile that I drive, it costs me a quarter. Okay? So now what we're going to do is I know that my B is the $75. That is the cost before, sorry about that, orange is not showing up. Before we even get in the car to drive. Okay? All right. So I want to know what is determining the amount that is being added to our beginning cost. So we have this. So what's being added to this $75? Well, it tells us, and it has an additional 25 cents per mile. So that's also being added. So we know that that piece is our slope. So when I put this in slope-intercept form, remember this is a quarter, so 0.25 m. So 0.25 plus our b, 75. Okay? So we know that x is representing the number of miles, and y is representing our total cost, or the total charge that the company would charge us. Okay? All right. So now let's interpret slope. So for example here, it says Riley High School had 240 students in 2005. In 2009, they had 300 students. So you can see the different numbers that we have here. We have time and we have students. So you can see that relationship. Remember, we're talking about linear things, so we all have an x and a y. That's two relationships. So time and students. So here, when I see that ordered pair, I can see in 2005, I had 240. So you notice I'm setting it up with time, comma, number of students. So that's my X and my Y. So then I have in 2009, I have 300 students. Okay? So when I solve for my slope, remember, we take our Y's, 300 minus 240. We take our time, and then of course the difference of that, 30 minus 240 is 60, and then that is 4. And simplify a little further down, 4 goes into 60 15 times. So let's look about how do I interpret this. Remember, our Y's, if I have 15 over 1, our Y's are representing the number of students. And this is talking about our time, which our time here is in years, right? Because we're talking about 2009, 2005. So I can interpret this that Raleigh High School has 15 students every year that's being added, okay? All right. Now, for this next one, I have temperature that is at 7 o'clock in the morning is at 36 degrees. Then at 3 in the afternoon, it's at 48 degrees. So I need to, remember, I have a little star in your packet that says that you need to change your temperature to military time, okay? So when you look at 7 o'clock, let's go ahead and write this in here. So 3 p.m. is 48 degrees. And then at 7 a.m. is 36 degrees. Okay? So let's go ahead and change what it means that 3 p.m. is in military time. So 3 p.m. is, well, at 12 o'clock, you know, then we start at 1, 2, so at 12 to 3. So I need to add 3 to 12, so that's 1500. So 15 is what 3 o'clock is in military time. All right, and then 7, of course, is just 7. So now let's put this into our slope formula. Okay, so we're going to, our Y's go on top. All right, so when we do this, what's 48 minus 36 is 12. 15 minus 7 is 8. Okay, so remember, let's go ahead and interpret this. Okay, let's put meaning to this. Remember, we had our Y's, right? Our Y's are representing degrees. So this is saying 3 degrees for every 2, what? Talking about time, right? 2 hours. Well, I want to go down even further. That's another way of saying if I do that in half, that's saying 1.5 degrees every hour. Okay? Because 1.5 is the same as 3 halves. All right. Let's build a little more onto this. So we're going to write a cost of equation. So last year, Pinwheel Industries introduced a new toy. It cost $5,400 to develop this toy. Then it cost an additional $4 to manufacture each toy. All right. So you kind of can see here that we definitely have something that initial cost. Then we have those additional costs. Okay. So now it's asking us to set up a linear equation in the form. Here's our equation. That's y equals mx plus b. All right, so what it's saying is that our y, so now here we're talking about c, is the total cost. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're using our slope-intercept form, and we're having, representing variables that actually mean something. So we might use M to be miles or minutes, something like that. So here our uppercase C is going to represent the total cost, and N is representing the number of toys. Okay, so however many number of toys, we can definitely figure out what our total cost would be. So to write this, well, what is being added to our additional amount? Well, $4 to manufacture each toy. So 4N plus our beginning rate. Okay, so here's our beginning money, our initial money that we have to pay. So I'm getting $4 for every toy. So if I have one toy, then I could definitely figure out what that total cost is. So this is our initial equation. This is our beginning equation that we can use to find however situation that we need. So B, we're asking what is the total cost to produce 4,500 toys. All right, so let's go about that. So here we have our total cost, and I already have, so it says how much is it going to cost to produce 4,500 toys. So remember, N is representing our toys. Okay, so once you multiply this together, well, that's, 18,000 plus the 5,400, you should get 23,400. That's how much it's going to cost to produce 4,500 toys. Next one. If I only have, we're going to go backwards now. If I have a total cost of 31,400, how many toys can I actually produce for that? So we're going to go backwards. So this is my initial equation, and that is my C. That is going to be my total cost. So you can see here that we're solving for our number of toys. So this is just isolating that variable. Okay. Should be 26,000 right here. Then I'm going to divide that by 4. Okay, let's go over here. N equals 6,500. So I can make, or not me, but Pinwheel Industries can make 6,500 toys. Okay. Linear equation application. Now we're going to talk about a rental car. Okay. So here I have a car rental company that charges $210 per week plus 15 cents per mile to rent a car. How many miles can you travel in 1 week for $336? So now we've got to identify some variables here. Okay, we've got miles, we've got total cost, and we've got weeks. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I've got total cost. Okay, then we're going to use, let's use W for number of weeks. And then we're going to use M for the number of miles. Okay, so let's plug that in. So I have C equals, well, how many number of weeks do I have? It says it's going to cost 210 per every week, right? Per week. So I can see that that's going to play the role as a coefficient. Then I have plus 15 cents per every mile. Okay? So now they're saying that how many miles can I drive if I'm traveling in 1 week for $336? So this is my total cost. Okay? And this is definitely my W, 1W, so we're going to plug those in. So my total cost is 336 equals 210, okay, because it said 1 week. So here's my total cost. I know that I have to multiply that out. Now it's just as simple as solving for the miles, because that's what we're solving for. Okay, now we're going to divide by 15 cents. So remember, 126 goes in the house. Move your decimal over twice. Decimal comes up here. Okay, and so 15 goes into it 840 times. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you can drive 840 miles in 1 week for a total cost of $336. All right, cell phone plan. The company, Ringular, has a monthly cell phone plan where a customer pays a flat monthly fee and then a per mile fee. So you can see where we have a beginning rate and then we have a rate that we have to pay per mile. If a customer, sorry, not per mile, per minute. I was like, what in the world? Per minute fee. I don't know why cell phones would have a per mile fee, but per minute fee. If a customer uses 360 minutes, the monthly cost will be $38. If the customer uses 800 minutes, the monthly cost would be $60. So you can see now that we have a cost and we have minutes. So that's the two relationships things here that we're looking at. And that, of course, I set up here in part A for you. So find a linear equation for the total monthly cost. So if we're going to let X equal the number of minutes and Y be the number of monthly cost. Okay? So we can see here that for 360 minutes, it cost me $38, so there's my first ordered pair. Then, for the other one, 800, it is $60. So here's my two ordered pairs, right? Because you notice we're trying to get our equation. And so I need to definitely solve for my slope. And then we have our x's. Okay, and so my slope here is going to be, when I simplify this, it's going to be 1 over 20, which when you look at that, it's going to be, the cost is going to be 0.05. So pretty much you're paying a nickel per minute when you simplify that. Okay, if you put that in decimal form, since we're talking about cost, it's kind of good to see what is the cents that's in that. All right, so there's my M. So far we have Y equals a nickel for every minute. So now we've got to find the B. I'm going to switch over to a different color here. All right, so now to find the B, remember we've done this 1,000 times. We take one of these points. Let's go ahead and we'll use, what point are we going to use? We're going to use this one. All right, and we're going to plug this in. So 60 is my Y. 800 is my minutes. And we're going to solve for the B. So when I multiply 800 by 0.05, that is 40. Now I'm going to subtract 40. And you can see here that B equals 20. All right. right? So what does that mean? Well, that means that you're going to pay a flat rate of $20 plus 5 cents for every minute. So let's put that in an equation. So 0.05 plus 20. So then the next one says how much will the monthly cost be if a customer uses 1,200 minutes? So we already know by plugging this in, well, they're going to pay $20 no matter what. So here we need to plug in 120 in here for, or I'm sorry, 1,200. Okay, so a quarter or 5 cents times 1,200 is going to be 60. So when I bring this over here, so the total cost is going to be $80. So the total monthly cost is going to be $80 when you use 1,200 minutes with a $20 flat rate. Okay? All right, last one, you guys. Hang in there with me, okay? Camp program charges a registration fee. So that to me looks like a beginning rate, right? A B. And then a daily amount. So that means how we have every day, it's going to cost something. Okay? So if the total bill for one camper is $338 for 12 days, then you have a total bill for another camper, $506 for 19 days. You can definitely see we have time here in days and we have cost of something. So there's our two relationships. So we have 12 days at $338, and then we have 19 days at $506. Okay? All right, so now, again, we're just going to go through the whole spiel, because in the end, we're looking for how much it's going to cost for 30 days, practically for a whole month. All right, so when I solve for the slope, let's go ahead and put our numbers in order. Okay, that gives me 24. So I can see here that my slope is 24. Okay, now I could change this and write C to be my total cost, right? I could use my slope now I have is 24. I could change my X to represent D for days, right? I could kind of have it like that if I wanted to. So now I need to plug in and find what my B is, because we don't know what that is yet. So let's plug that in. So we're going to use this point here, and let's plug that in to find our B. So our Y is going to be 338. Our days is 12. And let's find that B. Okay, so 24 times 12 is 288. And so when you subtract 288, your B is 50. All right, so now so what does this mean? Well, this means that the cost per day is $24, and they have a flat registration fee of $50. So what did they say they wanted us to know? How much will a camper pay for 30 days? So all we have to do is plug in the 30 for our days. All right, to find that total cost. Okay, so 24 times 30 is 720. And so the total cost for the camper for 30 days is $770 $770 for a 30-day enrollment period, in addition of paying with also paying the $50 registration fee as well.